Alright, so far we've tackled the nitty-gritty details of developing Blender add-ons, and in this video we'll take a step back for a broader view. I'll share some tips on streamlining your add-on development workflow, so let's jump in. There are a few key Python concepts that you'll need to be familiar with for add-on development. But don't worry about it, you don't have to be a Python expert. If you are comfortable with these concepts, you can achieve a lot. This might seem overwhelming, especially for beginners, but trust me, it's nothing to be afraid of. And I think add-on development is more about knowing your way around Blender's Python API than being a Python expert anyway. So if you are new to programming, don't let that hold you back. Focus on these core concepts first, then just dive in. It's much easier than you might think. And to kickstart your journey, I highly recommend this fantastic course, Scripting for Artists from Blender Studio. Cyprian is one of the Blender developers. He surely knows his stuff, right? So he covers essential Python concepts you'll need with practical examples right in Blender. He'll guide you through creating operators, panels, and best practices, among other things, giving you a well-rounded foundation. And he definitely makes complex topics digestible as he knows them inside out. Most of the course is free. To access the rest, you'll need a subscription that costs about $11 per month. But they let you download the videos, so you can pay only for a month, download the videos, and have them forever. I believe after watching Scripting for Artists, you'll be well on your way to developing add-ons. Also, Python is an extremely popular language, so there are plenty of resources available online to learn anything you want. Alright? Next up, I want to talk about Blender's info panel. Whenever you perform an action in Blender, you can see the corresponding Python command in this info panel. For example, add a cube. This is the code for it. If I scale it, we get another command. Same thing happens if I add a material or change the viewport color or so on. This is super helpful because you can actually copy and paste these commands into your own script. I think it gives you a great starting point and helps you learn the Python code behind Blender's functionalities. Chances are you'll notice that sometimes no command appears here when you perform an action. Here's an example. If I play the animation using this play button, nothing appears here, right? Let's solve that. Just open up the console and type bpy.app.debug_wm equals true and press enter. This will make the info panel more informative. Even when you zoom in using the scroll wheel, it will tell you the corresponding command for that. But more importantly, if I use the play button again, I can now see the command for it here. Cool. To switch it off, just press the up arrow key to retrieve the previous line and change true to false and press enter. Another useful feature is Python Tooltips. Just hover over any property, and if you have Python Tooltips enabled, you'll see the Python equivalent of that property appear as a tooltip. This is a perfect guide if you are unsure how to manipulate a property within your add-on. You can also right-click on any property and copy its full data path, which again gives you the Python equivalent of that property. Then you can paste that into your code to access it using Python. This option is always available, by the way, even if you haven't enabled Python Tooltips. To activate Python Tooltips, head over to the Preferences menu. In the Interface section, you'll find a checkbox for it. Another handy option is this Developer Extras. When it's enabled, right-clicking on any element will present two new options. This one brings up the Python API reference for this property. And if we open the text editor here, click on Edit Source, which is the other option that comes with Developer Extras, we'll see the UI code for that. So basically you can check out how Blender developers built the whole UI using this method, alright? While we are here, let's talk about these awesome Python templates in the text editor. These templates are just code snippets that show you how to do some stuff using Python. Like this one shows you how to create a pie menu, or this one is for building a UI panel and so on. Some of them are more complex than others, but they are all quite useful. This template, for example, shows you how to move an object with your mouse. Cool. Now you can use this method and customize it to fit your needs, right? Actually, let me quickly show you an example of that. I just wanted to control this playhead with my mouse for the animation scrubber feature in my add-on. So I use the same logic. Here in my add-on, I simply replace this line with scene.frameCurrent. So I'm just updating this current frame value rather than moving a cube around. I also made this value adjustable from the UI. This way users can fine-tune the sensitivity to their liking. So if you're not sure where to begin, just browse through these templates and see if something sparks an idea to get you started. Of course, you're not only limited to these templates. You can also explore the codes of other add-ons, like if you are wondering how a UI panel is built in a particular add-on or the type of code that runs behind a specific operator. You can check out their code and see how they put everything together. Let's say you didn't quite understand the code in a template or part of an add-on. Use ChatGPT or a similar language model. Just copy and paste the code, then ask, can you explain this code to me line by line? If you come across some terms in the code that you're not familiar with, you can ask ChatGPT to clarify them with examples. These large language models might be quite useful as long as you provide clear and well-structured prompts. I'll put a video link in the description on how to create effective prompts for ChatGPT in case you're interested, okay? You can also use ChatGPT for debugging. Debugging means finding and fixing errors in your code in case you're not familiar with the term. But before using ChatGPT for debugging, I highly recommend searching the web first, because sometimes a quick internet search about your problem could be way more efficient than using ChatGPT, alright? And while doing that, consider including BPy in your search query for more relevant results. If you can find a solution online, paste your code into the chat. If it's too long, share the problematic part and explain the issue. You'll get a corrected version with some explanation. If it works, great. If not, repeat the cycle with the new error. But be aware that these models have no ability to reason like us. So it's not like you can say, hey, take your time, don't rush to an answer, just think thoroughly, then tell me what you think. They just can think more deeply to solve the problem. They will always give you the answer that is off the top of their head, so to speak, alright? They also hallucinate a lot, so they may suggest non-existent API functions or try to invent solutions every time you ask about something, while it's not possible to do in Blender in the first place. Like in this example, it says you can use the align property. Well, there is no align property in the API. It just made that up. Or it could be the opposite. It might claim what you are trying to achieve is not possible in Blender when it is actually possible. Like it can say, hey, there is this limitation, you can't do that. But in the next response, it could say, actually, you're right, it is possible to do that. What I'm trying to say is always be cautious when working with these models. They are far from perfect and can potentially do more harm than good if you're not being careful, alright? And if you want to get a better understanding of how these models work, I highly recommend watching this video. You can find the link in the description, and Andres' channel is a goldmine. Okay, if ChatGPT is no help and you can't find any solution online, then consider asking a question on Blender Stack Exchange. Make sure to be specific in your question and describe it in detail to help others understand and offer a potential solution. There are unsung heroes out there. You might be surprised at how quickly you can get a response with a perfect solution to your problem. Speaking of heroes, I'll add links in the description to some videos from past Blender conferences. They are incredibly informative with lots of valuable insights. I highly recommend watching them if you are interested in add-on development. I mean, if you made it this far in the video, you're probably interested, right? So ultimately, I will recommend starting to work on an add-on that you'd enjoy using if it existed. Maybe a tool that could make your life easier in Blender by automating a repetitive task, you know? And while working on that, if you try your best but get stuck and can't seem to find a solution, just don't worry about it, leave it like that. Your brain will keep working on it in the background. So you'll probably come up with a solution idea the next day or sometime later. It might happen when you're washing the dishes or taking a shower, you know. Our brains work like that, right? I'm sure you have experienced that many times. But the thing is, if you don't put in the effort in the first place, your brain won't generate great ideas. So be stubborn, persevere, and you'll succeed in the end. That's a fact. Alright, I hope you picked up a few things throughout this series. Hit me with your questions in the comments, and yeah, see you in the next one.